actually, technically, it's not morning now, is it? I think I've been beaten by time. It's 1 minute past midday, which means it's technically afternoon. And I am so excited to be here with you on this call for what is our very last in our series for Black History Month, October 2024. For those that don't know me, my name's Natasha Sampson, and I'm the Regional Strategic Lead for the South East, or Local Authority Fostering South East, which is a pilot, DFE funded pilot for all of the South East. We are 20 local authorities in total, which is 18 organisations, because 3 of those local authorities form together as a tri-borough party. So 18 organisations, and we've got a centralised fostering front door. And so it's a wonderful pilot partnership. And as part of that, we are delivering a series of sessions for Black History Month, which are focused on how we can support, or better support, maintain high levels of support for our global majority children. So as you know, some of you on the call I've seen, you've been to a few of our sessions, and this sadly is our last in the series. So I'm really devastated it's the last, but the first 4 sessions are going to be available on our YouTube channel. We are publishing one each day of this week, so you will be able to catch up if you didn't see them. Without much further ado, though, I'm going to introduce you to someone that I've had the pleasure of sitting under on a leadership course. She's amazing, incredibly knowledgeable, and I'm going to leave it there so that she can tell you a little bit more about herself. And it is Jennifer Williams. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks for the introduction, Natasha. It was lovely. So, good afternoon, everybody. I was here last week, and I absolutely really enjoyed the session that we had last week. And it's lovely to see some familiar faces. So I'm going to just, I've got a presentation. We've got about an hour. I've got quite a lot to get through. So I'm going to go at a bit of a pace, but I'm also going to really encourage that there's lots of interaction. So I'll be putting things up there, getting us to pause and to think. What I'd encourage you to do at the moment, if you have got a notepad, note paper, pen handy, because there's a couple of little things I'm going to ask you to do. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. If you'd like to click for me, please. If it's going to just share the slide deck. So while Natasha's doing that, so my name's Jennifer Williams. I have been a social worker for 25 years plus. Mainly youth justice, children in our care, and those leaving care, child protection, contextual safeguarding, IRO, CP chairs. I've done a number of roles. I would describe myself as African origin, Guyanese parentage, and British born. And I used to work in permanent roles, and then probably about 10 years ago, I didn't sort of fall out of love with social work, but I just wanted to do more stuff for myself. So I work for myself. I have my own business, Genesis Global Consultancy, and that really is about how we develop managers and leaders who are able to promote that inclusive workplace opportunities. And I do have the little bits and pieces on the side as well, a bit of coaching, NLP, and licensed trainer, and I also do hypnotherapy. So I'm going to try and hypnotize you to give me your credit card details later on. So that's all I'm going to do about myself, because this I really want you to to engage with this as well. So if you could just do 1 click for me, please, Tasha. Okay, so straight away, what I'm going to ask you to do is just to write a couple of sentences. We'll give you a couple of minutes, not very long, just what comes to mind. A couple of sentences that you would use to describe yourself. I'm not going to ask you all to share, but I will be inviting some of you, just if you're willing to, just to share a few things you've put there. So just take a couple of sentences that will that you would use to describe yourself. You heard my introduction, so I'd just like to hear a little bit about yourselves. So I'm not going to give you long. I'm going to just give you a few minutes. Not even a few minutes, actually. And just come whatever feels natural. And when a few of you have done that, maybe you can just give me a little bit of a thumbs up, just so that I can see. And actually, I can't actually see the chat very well. Let's have a look. Brilliant. Thank you. Got a couple of thumbs up coming in. Thanks, everyone. A few more. Real nice one. Thanks, Jill. Okay, right. I'm going to move on to the next one. Another click for me, please, Tash. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to think about, write a couple of sentences on how another person or other people might describe you. Again, what comes to mind. Just a couple of sentences. How would you think other people might describe you? And again, once you think you've done a few, just give us a couple of thumbs up, please. Nice one. Thanks, everyone. Great. Oh, some of us like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. Great. All right, I'm going to carry on. Yeah, a few more coming through. Beautiful. Okay, so now I'd want a little bit of people taking themselves off the mic and talking to me. Click, please, for me, Tash. So, talk to me. What do you notice with those two different statements? Just people just talk to me, or write in the chat if you don't feel if you don't feel able to or confident talking on the out loud, then throw things in the chat. What did you notice when you did the first one? You described yourself, and then the second one about how others describe you. Who'd like to share? Thanks, Jill.
Because of what we're doing, my first one was that I describe myself as white British. I describe myself as happy and enjoys life and loves children. What's really interesting, I've got one of my young children here who's Black African, and she described me as kind, loving, affectionate, and considerate.
I'm so sorry about that, Jill. Somebody called me just in the middle of that, and then my phone went off. Sorry, Jill. Can you just repeat that for me, please?
Right, because of what the course we're doing, I put myself down as white British, happy, enjoys life, and loves children. The second question, I got a Black African young lady with me, and I asked her, and she said I was kind, loving, affectionate, and considerate.
Oh, lovely.
So that was quite sweet. I'll reward her later.
And anything you notice about the difference with those two?
Describing ourselves and how we feel about ourselves, I think.
Beautiful, thanks. And just thank you for volunteering and being the first one. And just what I'm going to do, I just want us to just keep some of those thoughts in terms of those two differences. Anybody else wish to share for me, please? Oh, we've got 3 people raising their hands. I can't see the chat box, so I'm going to ask my co-facilitator, Tasha, if you can just name who's got their hands up first, second, third, please.
Because I'm sharing screen, I can't see them all.
No, don't worry.
Think there was Razwan, and then followed by Natasha Curtis, I think, was there, guys? Oh, let me,
brilliant.
No, we've got D first, then Razwan, then Natasha. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Off you go then, please. What would you like to share?
So I found when I spoke about myself, I kind of spoke more about the things that I was interested in, and I also mentioned that I was non-binary because that's quite important to me. And then when I kind of spoke as someone like describing me, I spoke from a more professional point of view of how like my professional colleagues might describe me.
Nice, thank you. And I can see some things in the chat, so I'll take those after. There were 2 other people who had their hands up. Would you kindly like to share for me, please?
Yeah, I'm Razwan, and when I describe myself, I funny enough started talking about my job and to kind of like family makeup rather than like ethnicity or stuff. And I think often I don't see my ethnicity, if that makes sense. I just see myself as a person. And in terms of what common sense what people say, I was stumped by that because there's things that people who don't know me they'd say something different to people who do know me, and I've noticed that. And I had a student social worker a while back, and when I first met him, his first words were, you look really scary and intimidating, but you're not. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And he was, because he's young, he didn't have the filter. He just kind of just said it as it was. And I thought, well, yeah. Imagine what other people think, like colleagues, or carers I work with. They must be thinking the same. And because I think people judge people by appearances a bit too much. And like, things that I've got, like a beard, and in my religion culture, that's seen as a good thing. Like, that's a trustworthy, God-fearing person, and and even like their kind of testimony has a lot more weighting than somebody without one, for example. But in other cultures, it's seen as a bit rough or messy, or kind of So, and I think that's what kind of stuck me a bit. But in my team, we did this exercise. You had to like describe each other, and then they were put on a mug, and the 3 words that came out was knowledgeable, calm, and experienced. So you do that word thing where you just put in, it generates the 3 biggest keywords. So yes, I thought, that was quite interesting for me, different perspectives.
Nice. Lovely. Thanks for that share. Can you just help me to pronounce your name, please?
Oh, Razwad.
Razwad, thank you very much. Nice one. That's some great things you said there, Razwad. And Jill, and the lady before, so I didn't get your name. And I'm going to just keep asking you to keep those in mind as we go through the presentation, because we will be touching on some of those key things you said there. And there was another person that had their hands up as well. If you'd like to share, please.
Hi, I'm Natasha. I put in the chat as well. I kind of put more about who I am, but I was friendly, energetic, lively, and very loud. And when I thought about what people thought of me, I thought they'd probably think I was all those things, possibly more confident than I really am, and maybe can judge a little bit on my background sometimes. But when they get to know me, I think they just think, I'm great.
Beautiful. Lovely. Great. Thanks for sharing. And just one more click from him, Tasha. And I'm not going to ask you to answer this, but I just want you to take it. So what I'm going to do throughout this, I'm going to be throwing things at you and then just getting you to just give some thoughts and reflections. So my reflection, those 2 questions, what does that mean for GM, global majority children? So I guess we've done something around Black and global majority in language, have we, Natasha? So I'm going to use the word global majority in the wide context to describe Black in the political context. So what does this mean for our global majority children in care and how they might identify themselves? And some of you touched on some. Yeah.
Jen, sorry, I'm just mindful that there are some people on the call that might not have been to the previous sessions where we covered. So it would be useful, I think, to just mention why we're using the political term for kind of Black and what global majority means. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tasha. So just to give you the context, so global majority, it's been around for a while, but I think particularly since George Floyd, it's really come to the forefront. And the thinking behind that, well, not the thinking, the rationale behind that, actually, if you look at the world and the planet, the world, if you look at globally, people from Africa's sub-Sahara, all of those Asia actually make up 85% of the world population. And if you look at terminology, and we're going to talk a little bit about language, but actually the terminology it's changed quite a lot over the years. But what you'd be familiar with is ethnic minority when you're describing non-white, white being the sort of dominant culture. So the terminology global majority is just to is used to redefine and rebalance that power balance. That's a very, very quick overview. Yeah. If you want to know more, I encourage you to Google global majority, and Rosemary Campbell Stevens is one of the people who's really brought this to the forefront. Okay, thanks for that, Tasha. Okay, so my reflection, what does this mean for global majority children in care and how they might identify themselves, and for you just to reflect on that. And there was just, I've just made a few notes of some of the key things that were said. I don't actually see ethnicity, somebody said. I don't see ethnicity, I see myself as a person. So it was a lovely, really lovely point that somebody made. If people don't know me, they might see something different, and how important appearance is. Okay, so looking at, let's go, I just wanted to do a little quick overview of what you've touched over the last previous weeks. And Natasha has alluded to some of these already. I'm not going to spend lots of time on there, but I just thought it was really important that we just remind us in terms of what we've covered. So the very first week you did some work on cross-cultural care. And in that week, I think that's where you probably really explored the whole issue around transracial. I say transracial adoption because that's the area that I've done a lot of work in. But actually, you know, children, a global majority of children who are in care, fostered by those who are not of the same ethnicity as them. So you did a lovely, I had a nice hour or an hour and a half exploring that. On the 8th of October, what I wasn't here, but again, it's the feedback that I've heard. So you've had some testimonies from people who have been in care, and they just spoke about their journey. We had foster carers, we had some children who, adults who had previously been in care. On the 15th of October, you had a session that looked at skin and hair care, and how important it is in terms of nourishment and moisturising global majority children's skin and hair care. And last week, for those of us who were there last week, we had the pleasure of looking at cooking and food, and we were introduced to Replenished. I think that's the organisation, Replenished, and some lovely demonstrations of food and cooking. So just a couple of things I wanted to ask, really. For those of you who've been in all of those, some of those, any key takeaways, things that resonated with you over those last few weeks, so you think, actually, yeah, this, you know, I really found that session useful, and things you've been able to put into practice since you attended those sessions. Again, talk to me. Anybody like to share some takeaways?
A very quiet bunch this today.
We are very quiet. I will get you talking. I was going to put you into breakout rooms, but I'm not. But I'm going to, and I can see some names as well, so I might just pick on some names as well. Okay, let's continue with the slide deck, please. I'm going to ask you just to watch a little video. It's only about, it's literally 4 minutes long. I just think it really helps to set some of the context of the great work you do as foster carers and some things to be mindful of.
Challenges that foster parents and families will face when caring for a child from a different background, whether that's based on religion, race, culture, ethnicity, sexuality.
Sorry, I'll give it to you in a second.
Technical stuff today. It's one of those days. I've had to ask Natasha to help because my teams, this has been really problematic. So Natasha's kindly helped with that. Let's try and share that again.
Not doing a very good job of helping at the moment, am I, guys?
You are. Don't worry.
Here we go.
Let's try again. Thanks, Tash.
Can you just give me a thumbs up when it's when you can hear it playing and the sound is going as well?
No
also
sound.
Has to be a sense of I fit.
Got it, thanks.
The challenges that foster parents and families will face when caring for a child from a different background, whether that's based on religion, race, culture, ethnicity, sexuality, or gender, is one of being able to meet the young person where they are and to understand enough about them so that the care is wider than having their physical needs met or even their emotional needs met. Because in the emotional need being met, there also has to be a sense of I fit, I belong here, I'm important even though I'm different. So I'm going to start with the externals. a child who has a textured hair that's different to Caucasian or European hair, for instance, will need different hair products. Their hair will need to be cared for very, very differently. And so the challenge for the foster parents is to find where can they get hair products that care for their hair, who can teach them how to do it, where are the hairdressers located. That's the externals. Their skin as well. Black skin needs moisture, or they will look quite dry and ashy. So again, after bath, they will need to be moisturized, which might not be typical in that family setting. So we work with the carers to say this is going to be important. For a child who comes from a background of religion that is obvious, i.e. Islam, and they may wear a hijab or a burqa, again, it will be important for carers to understand how much input the young person wants from them in terms of their religion. Do they want to go to the mosque? Do they want to go to the temple? How do they facilitate that? And do they understand the prayers that they say in Arabic? And maybe if they don't, are they willing to accommodate space for the child to pray and to honor their religion? So it will require the foster parents to think differently. Be curious, be willing to learn from the child. It may be also that the child in care with the white family might not want to incorporate anything from their backgrounds at points in their journey. And if that's the case, for the carers, I would recommend that you still keep an open space for it, because there might be a time when they are ready and willing and wanting to incorporate that as part of their identity work. So always keep an open dialogue, always be permission given. You can be yourself here. Help me to understand you, and immerse them in their communities as and when possible. Locally, there will be Afro-Caribbean associations or other cultural associations that they can take the child to. Here in Medway, we have the Medway Afro-Caribbean Association, very active. And they run Saturday school, Saturday workshops that teach dance, food, drumming, a lot of cultural input they wouldn't get on their regular school curriculum. And MACA's work runs right throughout the year. So, at any point, a foster family can say, I have a child with me who would like to learn more about their background. I'm going to take them to a Saturday school to learn that, or to liaise with a charity for information. So there is a lot of resources out there, from the child who doesn't want to be immersed in their culture to the child who absolutely does want to be immersed in their culture, and everything in between. It will be important that families engage with this all the way throughout their care.
Jen, you're muted, so we can't hear you.
Oh, technology! Will we ever get it? We'll ever get it right? Thanks, Tasha. Just while she's putting the slide deck back on, just invite a few people just to just talk to me in terms of what resonates with you. Anything that resonates, anything that made you think, oh gosh, this is an area that I need to get better at, or not. Just to talk to me a bit. What resonated with you from that video? So we did, as one of the weeks we obviously did we've already looked at the hair care. So I'm sure for those of you who were here then. Anybody else who would like to talk? Mark. Thanks, Mark.
Probably on a similar theme to when we did the hair course. I'm really pleased to see these things being talked about, and man, do I wish we had a group like that near us 8 years ago, because it was a very, very different experience back then. And for us, we certainly spoke about the particular circumstances around trying to meet the needs of our Black foster son. it seems so much more open and approachable now. And we could have learned so much more if there had been a group like that she was describing near us.
Nice one. Thanks for getting the conversation started, Mark. Okay. I'm going to just press on. And what I want to share with you now is, many of you will be familiar with the national minimum standards, and I'm not going to go through this minimum standards, but what I am going to share with you is standard 2, which talks about promoting a positive identity, promotes a positive identity potential and valuing diversity through individual care. And as Natasha's clicking away here, what I'm going to share with you are two, and these are live case studies. Obviously, I've changed the naming things, but I'm going to just get Natasha just to click here, just for you to be reading through about Christine and Roger, and just tell me what your thoughts are. So this is actually what was completed under value 2, under a minimum standard 2. So we've got 12-year-old Christine, a Black British female. I'm not going to read it all. Her ethnicity and culture reflected. We talk about how the carers encourage Christine to appreciate the diversity of others. Susan is the foster carers, and Susan and Stephen are the foster carers there. I'll read through Christine, and then have a look at Roger. Give me a little thumbs up when you've read both the those two little scenarios. Thank you. More. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, folks. We've got a few thumbs up here. So just to remind you, this is the actual record. This is actually, it was written in terms of demonstrating how the foster carer had met national minimum standard 2. Tell me what your thoughts are in looking at both those two scenarios, and anything that strikes you, any sort of things that you think, oh, I wonder what, or I wonder if, or things that might be missing from that from demonstrating how that identity and valuing diversity has been promoted. Anything about Christine? Yeah, Christine, and the care that she's receiving from Susan and Stephen, or about Roger and the care that he's receiving from Tracy and Tom. Let me go into the chat in case someone. Listen to the child's needs and wants. Yeah. That might be a different one. So what can you see? What can you see, or anything else you think would be helpful to know more about? So I'll get the conversation. Oh yes, sorry. Thanks, Raz. Thank you, Razvan.
Probably not to that. So I'm going to have to.
No, please go. Thank you, Raz. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just think so Christine, it mentions about obviously working with her birth mother to promote obviously family time, but usually it's good to also get these additional bits of information, snippets from both families. So when we talked about culturally appropriate food last time, you can get a recipe for something. It's always different to how your parents would use it, and a lot of other cultures, like, we don't measure ingredients, and same with my culture, you don't use measures, you just kind of go with the flow, and so it's kind of good to kind of have that interaction. the other thing I just says again, I think with that one, the carers I think could do a lot more as well, like promoting not just Jamaica but the whole Caribbean culture, because there's a whole different culture, vibe, music, languages as well, and dialect. One of the other things is literature as well. A lot of people often miss that, and films and movies and TV programs, and I think that's really accessible these days, so it's worth looking at.
Nice.
Yeah, and similar with Rogers, I think again, you know, it might be Somalia, but Somalia is quite a vast country. There's other parts to it, like Puntland, Somaliland as well as Somalia. So it's all kind of fragmented a bit, but it's important to kind of take that into account, and also in terms of discrimination, he might face a lot more discrimination because it's just like he likes to dress differently, but their interpretation of him wearing makeup or a dress, it could be confusing him as something else instead of something else. Because a lot of those cultures, I wear a thobe and someone might mistake it for a dress. And sometimes we do have like musk or, like these kind of things on the eyes. It's not mascara, but it's like kind of a cultural charcoal thing. And but somebody else could see that and call it a dress and makeup, where somebody else would say that's the traditional dress. But it's not. You'd be insulted if you went to someone, why you wear makeup, because it's not makeup. It's just cultural sense and kind of thing. So I think that's like yeah. But for me, it's unclear if that makes sense, because it could imply something else, that it could be perhaps transitioning, sexually, or that's the cultural dress. So I think it's important to get that right, not jump to conclusions either way. Thanks.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful, lovely, lovely start of that discussion, Raswan. Thank you. Natasha, was you going to say something there?
I was just reflecting on Christine, and I think we often do this, particularly with our Black children. The assumption to me seems to be, with her being Black, British, and of Jamaican descent, that having carers that then are, it suggests her ethnicity and cultural identity are reflected in her placement, but it doesn't really tell us much about what that identity means to her. So I think it's very labeling as opposed to informative.
Beautiful. And both of you have really touched on what I was hoping that would be drawn out of there. For me, what does this, what have they actually done, and what does this actually mean? And quite often when these reports come to panel with these sort of statements in, and obviously the same as they're written by the social workers, but the social workers are getting the information from obviously from you as carers. I think what is really important is actually, what does this mean, as you were saying there? Actually, well, what does that identity actually mean for that person? And obviously linked to that is around life story work. So the point I'm making here really, and what you touched on there, Raswan, is not to be making those sort of assumptions, but just to be digging some more. Quite rightly, as you spoke about there, Raswan, that if Roger is of a different sexuality, what does that mean about his identity as a young Black boy growing up? Similarly, is his wish to wear a dress? It says dress up. I don't know if it's a dress, but to dress up, is that to do with some sort of trauma? So I think one of the key things that I would be encouraging us to do really is to move away from some of these bland statements. I mean, some of the statements that I've seen have just been so standard, such so bog standard, without the real oomph underneath it. So that's just a little plea really for us to really think about how we explore that some more. Click, please. And with this is really now when I'm really asking us to think about, how do we evaluate ourselves? And I'm going to introduce you to a little model in a second. But can you, and some of you have been able to, when you described yourself, can you actually reflect on how your own identity, biases and prejudice impact your ability to connect with a child of a different race or culture? So I'm not going to ask you to share this, but I'm really asking you to be really reflective in terms of how able are you to actually think of your own power, privilege and biases. We all have those biases. and that ability to connect. Secondly, the self-evaluation. How can you demonstrate that commitment to learn about and immerse the child in the child's cultural practices, values, and community? Yeah. So 2 really important questions there for you to think about and self-evaluate. If you'd like to click for me, Natasha. Now, I don't know if you can see this. It is a bit small, okay. But what, and the link is going to be there, and I'm going to make sure that the where I'm making this reference. But I just want to introduce this here because there's a lot of really great work. This has come from Dr. Tam Kane. She has been leading, and she's developed an approach called AFTIT, and it's mainly used. It's used in adoption. It's an anti-racist framework for decision making, and it's used for transitioning children into transracial adoptive families. Now, what can people see this at all? Is it too blurry? Someone just talk to me.
It's a bit blurry, but you can make it out.
You can just about see it. Oh, good. Thank you, Sarah. So I just want to explain the two bits there, because it is something that I would really encourage you to, once I send the link, to go and have a look at this. So basically, what you've got here, you've got this line in the middle. Above the line is something called racial and cultural consciousness, and underneath the line is race intentionality. And what Dr. Tam Kane in this framework is really really encouraging us to do a little bit of that self-evaluation. So when I pose those 2 questions, so above the line, what does this mean, this racial and cultural consciousness? It's really about, us individuals' awareness and understanding of not just their own race, but that of others, and the factor it has in shaping our identity. And what you'll see above there is these little boxes that sort of, so 0 is says, are you really, really evasive? Is it a minimization? Is there some awareness? Is the 3rd one. There's some sort of exploration. And do you think, and the last one is that racial and cultural integration. So when you're looking at that consciousness. And what I would encourage you to do is just to be true to yourself, just to think about where you can place yourself on that continuum. And your reasons behind that. And again, as I say, it is used for adoption, but it's absolutely relevant for for you as foster carers. So that's the top line. The bottom line is about race intentionality. And this talks about our ability to really be intentional and consciously seeking out and discussing and actually recording information and addressing issues of race. Again, the bottom line, asking, looking at that continuum, are you more towards the left where it's all about avoidance? There's that complete absence. On your number 1, where actually there is a little bit of a minimal race intentionality. Number 2, there is some basic intentionality. Number 3 is moderate, and number 4, actually no, I've got good intentionality. So again, I'm, with your supervisors, social workers, with yourselves, with your partners, just have a look at that and think about whereabouts do we think I am on this continuum, and more importantly, what some of the things that I think I could do to actually move myself over towards the the number 4 for racial consciousness, and the number 4 for intentionality. So I'm gonna, okay. Can you just put that back up for me? Okay, so I'm going to just leave that there, just for you to have a little few minutes, or few seconds, just to have a look at that and see if you can see it. That's one of the problems, and when you're not in the room, is there? You can't give out handouts. Okay. If you'd like to click for me again, please. Similarly, and I really want to talk a little bit more about this. This particular framework, it introduces these key 8 areas. And basically what this talks about is actually for our global majority children to have a sense of identity it's really important that these key areas are addressed. Yeah, some of them you will be familiar with already. You've done some work already on it says here ethnic and personal care. You've done some work on diets. Yeah, and I'm going to just do a little bit of a second, just to dig a little bit more in terms of language. If you'd like to click for me. So supporting this this framework is this lovely grid here, and basically what it says here is that these can you see this at all? Can you see it at all? Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. Again, this framework talks about that child's sense of self and those key areas, and that actually some of these traits of identity can instill some of those following thoughts, feelings and beliefs, so those bits on the outside. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into this in great detail because I'm just conscious of time, but if you can just look to the one that's got the lips on there, and it talks about language, and I'm going to just read out what it says there just in case you can't read it. So under language, what it says there is it talks about the nuances of ancestral language and religious dialect, regional dialect. Talks about family narratives, oral traditions and storytelling. And I think it was you, Razwan, that spoke about literature and such like. The expressions of emotional, verbal and non-verbal mannerisms and those idioms as well, and those cultures of art, including tapestry, literature, and music. Just what you was talking about there, Raswan. Yeah. So again, I'm just getting you to think in big picture in terms of going back to when we spoke about that racial intentionality, that racial consciousness. What are some of the things that you could be doing to help to develop that? If you'd like to click for me, Natasha. Just to help you think like that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce you to 3-year-old. No, that's not very good doing that. Ngozi, who's female. She's from South Africa, and she's Xhosa, and so Xhosas do this click. When I spent some time in South Africa, when I was there, I was able to do the click properly, but I can't do it now. Just wanted to have a little read through this case study. I'm going to leave it up there, and then I really, really want you to think about what does this mean for you? So if you was got the phone call, we've got a 3-year-old Nkosi who needs an emergency placement. Let's just say it's an emergency placement at the moment. And before you know it, Nkosi, your emergency placement, Nkosi's been with you for, let's just say 6 months or so. Have a little read through Nkosi and tell me what resonates with you, what feels comfortable, what would make you feel uncomfortable, what would you think, oh, I don't know what to do around that, or actually, no, I've got this. So I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes and just get you to have a look at that. If you can click for me, Natasha, just put all of it up, please. Brilliant. That's great, thank you. Once some of you have read through it all, if you can just give me a little hands up, thumbs up rather. Thank you. Thanks. More. Okay. So I know some of you are probably still reading, but I'm going to just invite people again up. Please do talk to me. Just tell me, just be open and honest. What was could some of the challenges be? So let for you, if for you as foster carers, what would some of those challenges if you were asked to care for Nkosi? Thanks, Raswan.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, it was really good written here, but I think one of the things people often miss is like how to pronounce names. So, you can say this is how, and also how, prefers to be called, and also what the origin of the name is, because a lot of the time there's a lot of attachments related to the names, whether it's, cultural, religious, or other significance. But I do find that sometimes quite frustrating, because the others were badly written the ones before, but this is a lot better written. But one of the things is always missed is how to, phonetically, sometimes people put it in brackets, break it down. This is how to say it correctly, and I think that's useful. And but I think one of the challenges I was going to say is also around, because sometimes the religion side, because obviously sometimes it writes someone's practicing Christian, but obviously, what denomination, what church, what sect. And here it's specific, which is good. But then it's kind of physically finding a place that's near, that is full match or a partial match. And if it's partial match, you kind of need to figure out what the difference is and if the person's comfortable. It's a partial match, because sometimes there can be big differences in the doctrine, and it can cause other issues if parents are kind of one way and the child's the other way, and they have contact, and it will just turns into something else. So I think it's quite sensitive area.
Nice one, thanks. Anybody else? So anyone else got any sort of like, oh my goodness, when you read through that profile there? Mark, thank you.
As a family that I've had a really diverse mix of children, that's quite a lot of information. Now, one of the issues, it's good in that, okay, now we know what we're dealing with, but first we've got to find it. Now, we've been in this situation before, so you go out and you find it, and you think, great, I know where I'm going with this. And then the young person says, oh no, I'm not doing that, I hate that, no, I don't want to do that. And then, because the birth parents are really clear in their vision, when the child isn't quite so clear, that's when life becomes really, really tricky. And man, we've been on that journey, because you want to do your best, but that can be quite tough. And that's quite a long list of needs, I suppose, from the birth parent perspective. So you got to walk that tightrope with how does the young person feel about that, and we're still on that journey for sure.
Nice one, thanks, Mark. And just thank you for your honesty in sharing. But if you was if you was asked to care for 3-year-old Nkosi, what would some of the challenges be for you? Currently now, I don't know where you live, but given that she's 3 years old, what would some of the, just given you've got all this information, is there anything you just think, actually, yeah, I don't know about that bit. What, just your own immediate reflections on that?
I mean, the standout one for me when I was fostering would be, just in its simplest form, the breakfast. I normally have more than one foster child, and I would have to do that. All of them would have to have the same breakfast as her on certain days, but then I don't, to make sure that I met her needs, but also the other children kicking up a stink and saying that they want their Cheerios or whatever it is, and it's trying to manage that as a family to make sure that we meet everybody's needs, and not leaving anybody out. Or I always try to do it as an inclusive thing, so we'd all do everybody's cultures. But yeah, that can be a challenge when you have 3 toddlers who all are very different individuals.
Beautiful. Tasha, thank you for your honesty, and I'm really glad that you know, both yourself and Mark are being open and honest. You know, this is not easy stuff, as you know, and you know, 100% admiration, respect for you all as carers, but just think about how do you manage that complexity? And that's why I want to put, you know, parents have come and very clear about, we wanted to do this, we wanted to do that, etc. Anybody else? Oh my God, look at the time. Anybody else got any comments to share around Nicolesy and that and what's presented there? Natasha, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to, just following on from what Natasha said, you know, thinking about it, Natasha, I wonder if is it the same though if you have birth children. So I've got 3 and they have different dietary needs. So you might have a child who has an allergy, for example, and can't eat certain foods. Because I think something like Cheerios and stuff, that's quite easy, isn't it? That's just like in a bowl kind of thing. If somebody had, how would we make sure that, and I guess I'm saying this as a question, but I guess there's also an implied statement in there really about the importance of still making those small changes to ensure that everybody got to eat what they wanted. I think for something.
To be honest, I to give you an example, I mean, I'm not fostering anymore, but I fostered, had 3 under 3 and my own daughter, and one of the children had to have halal. So as a family, we just changed everything because I didn't want to cook. I wanted us to all eat as a family. I think it's really important. Those children, it's where you come together with food. So we just changed everything. So, but at the same time, sometimes my daughter would be looking at me going, well, I don't want this. And I'd be going, well, I'm not cooking anything else. This is so it's those discussions, and it can, you know, I'm not a restaurant. We eat as a family. So yeah, it can be a challenge at times when I have to change things to make sure that child's needs are met. And I do think it's important for them. But it does cause conflict sometimes within the family. For me,
within the family.
I think
Thanks, Tasha.
Yeah,
Adrian, sorry, I'm just going to bring Adrian.
Sorry, yeah. I think, sorry, can I just say that myself as a pescatarian, as a pescatarian, and my husband is a carnivore, and one of my children have a number of allergies. We do have that, but it's really important for our looked after children where they might not even necessarily feel the confidence to articulate, or indeed in this case, Ngozi is 3 and maybe not have the language to articulate. It is important we have that flexibility.
Can I just bring in 2 other contributors? We've got Adrian and one other. Sorry, I don't know who the other person is. So if I can invite you to comment, please. And then I've got to literally whiz through the last few slides because time's caught up with me.
Yeah,
Adrian, thank you.
I think I'm on. Yeah, yeah. When you read it, it does present quite overwhelming. Oh dear, there's a lot of how do I manage all this? But just thinking on it, there is quite a lot already going on here that we as a I support foster carers, so I'm not a foster care. That we can just continue to promote, for example, the breakfast, obviously, but there's mention of clothing. She already has clothing already, and so making sure she's wearing the clothing when she has contact, family time with parents, and really promoting those contacts with extended family, and seeking out other members of the family that hopefully would be safe to have contact with. Stories. She's 3 years old. Getting hold of, hopefully, I don't know if there is, but doing a bit of research to find out if there's any storybooks out there that one could purchase. I mean, dare I say, contacting the South African embassy in London. You know, there might be something that they can help with. I'm sure they could. And obviously the church. I don't really know anything about Seventh-day Adventists, but I'm sure there must be one somewhere fairly local that we could tap into, and maybe they could help. And I'm sure they have children's activities that one could bring a child along to. So yeah, clothing, stories, food, church, contact. Those are the things I would be really trying to think of and promoting at this stage, and then take it from there. Really see where it takes us. Yeah.
Thanks, Adrian. So I'm going to just quickly whiz through here. So I've just pulled together some slides here. Now, the reason I wanted to show that, if you just quickly go back for me, Natasha, just quickly. The reason I wanted to show that was because in my ignorance, I thought, oh yeah, South African cultures. What we've got here is some of these are Zulu, some of it's Xhosa. Okay, so again, not us making those assumptions. So I think the little girl in the middle is Xhosa, but some of the other ones are from a different tribe. So I just wanted to put that in there again in terms of the importance. If you'd like to click for me, Tash. And this is something that you spoke about for the other Natasha around food. You know, this is what I've been used to eating in breakfast, and this and the so that just a little quick illustration just to highlight something that you were saying there. Okay, right. I'm not going to have lots of time on here, but I really wanted just to quickly show you in terms of some of the stereotypical images and perceptions. So my thoughts were, if I was to say, you know, when we think about culture, so within the global majority community, you know, through language and obviously through colonialism, music was one of the ways that messages were passed through, and singing, etc., from one field to another. Perceptions now, very stereotypical perceptions of particularly of our young black boys. So there's one at the top there, the one at the bottom there. You know, we've got our young black boys. They've all got their trousers down, showing their underpants. You know, that's a very typical image. We look at the when we look at females. And I'm making some judgments here. I'm purposely making some judgments here, but some judgments and assumptions. You know, very loud, very exotic, bit ghetto-y. Could be a bit ghetto with your big earrings. You know, you all want straight hair. And as you can see here, some of those stereotypical perceptions. In, you know, when you look at Justin Bieber and this little description of what some activity he got up to, he was a misguided young man. The congressman who tried to throw somebody over a three-story, was behaving inappropriately, and we had a basketball player who spoke in an aggressive manner. He's described as a thug. Yeah, click for me. So here, and I'm not going to get time to go through this, but if you just click for me, I really want you to, and we spoke about this earlier on in the very beginning, but really want you to take some time to have a look at this here, because some of the things that you spoke about in this today, how you hold up that sort of that mirror, so there's racial mirrors and representations in the home. Images, access, this bottom line, that the bottom, access to a variety of representations and understandings of beauty is really important. Some of you have spoke about, I think you spoke very at the beginning there, Mark, that actually things are different now. But for those, you know, do people know where to go and get some of those cultural foods and clothes, and how our children can have that access to that? And more importantly, the steps. So here's some quotes here from, and these are real quotes from parents and from carers as well. And you spoke about language here. One thing we wanted our social workers to help us was with language. We had no idea which language to prioritise. When you look at Xhosa there, we know about our child's family, so you can read that there. The birth parent has felt that the social workers didn't take time to think about heritage and religion. And she describes 3 different in her family here. Just click for me. We run out of time here. Oh.
We've run out of time,
oh,
sadly,
no, right.
Jen, and I'm
Okay,
just like,
Okay, all right. Look, don't look. You will get the presentation, and obviously it's got a few other bits in there. I suppose just at the very end. You know, the last slide was really talking about how you can celebrate those cultural milestones. As somebody spoke earlier on, using literature, music, talking about how you can show that positive role models. I had a lot of material here because I had initially planned for an hour and a half, which is why I've rushed through it all because I got my timings wrong. So look, I know that's a lot to go through. I hope that you found that useful. I know that when you take, I hope when you go back into your you go back and look through the presentation and the slides, you'll see lots of other information in there as well. And I'll make sure that I put through the references for the AFTIP module, which I really would encourage you to look at. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you. We were optimistic, weren't we, to put any of these sessions in for an hour. But I think that one thing that we are committed to doing is ensuring that this content isn't just something that's covered in an October of every year and then put back down again. So I think what we need to do, and I think Dee earlier actually talked about, you know, putting things in their newsletters. And we need to think about how we make sure that you are all getting this content and having these activities. So it was one of the reasons that we wanted to record, is to make sure that it's available. But we will leave it with me. I'll have a think about how we make sure that we've got a bit more happening. I'm really pleased to share with you actually that we are already in conversations with Replenish Culture about bulk buying some of those, for those that were here last week and the week before, bulk buying some of their Replenish boxes to ensure that foster carers from across the region have access to them. And what we will do is make sure that you have the ability to not only get your hands on a box, but then also have the space to be able to watch the videos back again, have those conversations together in more localized groups so that you can have much more conversation. So if there are things that you would like to see, hear, experience, you want us to organise, please do reach out. You can use the chat. I shall stay on with Jen as well for a couple of more minutes. We'll stay on. But for those of you that have to leave, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon. I shall stop recording.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to all the foster carers who are present, and obviously those of you who manage foster carers. Thank you so much for the work that you do. You know, and you know, we don't say thank you enough, but you know, absolutely key, important, and you know, I'm truly thankful for all that you're doing, and actually just showing up today. And a huge well done to for Fostering South East. Very brave thing that you've done here. Absolutely brilliant initiative, and I'd hope to see this more, that you can roll out your knowledge elsewhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen.